Hello and welcome to this episode of Breck Buzz. Joining me today are two members of our town council, Elizabeth Lawrence and our mayor, Eric Mamula. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
So, October 6th, we all woke up to a couple inches of snow this morning. It seems like summer was just yesterday, but recently council got a look at some of our financial reports, and it's a strong summer in Breck when we look back at that. And we just had Oktoberfest, another very successful Oktoberfest in September.
And virtually every weekend, not just in the summer, but all through the fall, has been amazingly busy. I'm sure if you've come to town and walked around, you've noticed that there are just hordes of people everywhere. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. Again, these are good problems for the town to have, but our traffic numbers have consistently shown that we're seeing that every month it's just like a new record and the highest. And I think the month of July for Breckenridge was as close as we've ever got to 25,000 cars a day on average entering and leaving town at the north end. And
wow.
So, yeah, higher than any of our winter months. And so it's great. Summers are strong for the community, and it was another beautiful summer and great as we enter into our budget season for next year. So.
True. It's going to allow us to do a few more projects next year, and hopefully our restaurants and retails are happy after a very strong summer.
Yes. Well, recently in this past month, the town council has been taking some legislative actions and looking, and we've spent quite a bit of time talking about an amendment to one of our parking ordinances. And specifically our intent was to try just creatively look for some additional housing opportunities. And Mayor, maybe you could talk a little bit. You certainly have a good familiarity with the town code. And what was it that the council recently adopted this amendment to amend that?
As part of our overall housing strategy, we're looking even to take small bites at this apple. We've changed the code so that if you have a second floor retail that you'd like to convert to a residential, you can do it if you deed restrict it, and we'll exempt you from the parking ordinance. So it sort of solves a major money issue with coming into the district,
and this is just the conservation
just
district.
In the conservation district, which is most of our downtown. So hopefully we'll get some owners that are having trouble renting retail on a second floor decide to do a conversion. Maybe it'll be an opportunity for a few more workforce housing pieces through the community.
Yeah. And I know one thing that the council discussed, and it's important for our viewers to know, is we tried to make it's kind of an experiment because we don't know. So we tried to make it so that it's not permanent, and certainly somebody, if it doesn't work, they can reverse that back to retail use.
And that was an important piece for the council that, since this is, we didn't want anybody getting stuck with something that's not going to work. Yeah. So if you do this, you decide it's not right, you can just go back to the retail use.
Yeah, good. So hopefully it'll get us, even if it's one or two more housing units, it's, as you said, it's small increments wherever we can get them right now. One of the other legislative items, perhaps not as sexy as housing for our people, but important at times, was our chief of police thought it was important to have something in the ordinance during those rare circumstances where they may need to shut down access to the Blue River going through town.
Yep, as snow melts in May and June, sometimes that water, and even later, can be really high. And this is really just a public safety thing, probably long overdue. This is part of the stuff that people probably don't even realize the town council spends time on and works on, but it's really important. We just want to make sure that we keep our guests and our residents safe. And so the Blue River has gotten really high before. You can see that in Blue River Plaza, behind the Riverwalk Center, but also down lower on, below the rec center and stuff. And so this is just if we need to shut it, he now has that authority.
Yes. Yeah. And it is election season, and while the Fair Campaign Practices Act doesn't allow municipal governments to spend time or resources to promote or advocate for any particular item on the ballot, there is an exception to that, and one of those exceptions is that elected bodies like the town council can do resolutions to support particular ballot questions or to oppose particular ballot questions. And so this last meeting, the council did an official action, have 3 different resolutions. And the first one was to look at a ballot question that the town has on 2A relative to expanding our broadband. And Elizabeth, do you want to talk just a minute about what that does
Yeah,
for us?
this would really, I believe this is Senate Bill 152. It essentially opts us out of that. And it's not to say that we're going to do anything with broadband, but if we want to, we will now have the choice if this passes. In most municipalities across the state of Colorado, it is passed with over 80%. So it's pretty popular when it goes through. You know, we have seen other towns that have set up their own broadband service. This is just going to at least let us explore, have an option of what we want to do going forward.
And if it does pass, then we can certainly look for partnership opportunities out there to explore those things.
Yep.
Our hands are kind of tied without that.
Correct.
Yeah. And Mayor, there was a resolution with regards to a couple of the questions that the school district has also.
The council is supportive of 3A and 3B, that I can provide some funding for the school district. Part of it is technology, and then part of it is just sort of infrastructure and expanding the schools. I know that the current 6th grade class at the middle school is just shy of the max size that school can accommodate, and the amount of kids that are already in the pipeline for next year will push it over that number. So middle school needs some more size. The high school needs some more room for the kids. You know, as this community grows and more people move here on a permanent basis, we just get more and more children into that school pipeline. And, you know, to think that the status quo will be all right is sticking your head in the sand. So I think the district's done a nice job of deciding what they need, what they can spend over the next, 10 years. And, you know, I think this is an easy one for people to vote on. Or vote for, I should say.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, the last question that the council dealt with on a resolution in support of was the Summit County Combined Housing Authority question.
Yep, so that's 5A, and this is a temporary 0.6% sales tax increase for 10 years, so the next decade. And this would provide money to us for workforce housing. So basically it's just capital costs, construction costs, whatever we would want to use it. Currently, the town receives about 33% of our sales tax across the county. And so we would see a good majority of that to help us just each year kind of get some of these projects going, give us some opportunity if we wanted to private or do some public-private partnerships with others. So it would just help that. But we know workforce housing is important. We have land available. It's just figuring out the best way to get these projects going. And so I think this council really believed that the passing of 5A would really help.
Yeah. Well, certainly for those of you that watch this show on a regular basis, you probably noticed that if it's not parking and transportation that we're talking about, it's housing that we're talking about. And those have continued and still are 2 of the top priorities for our town council to deal with. Many of the reasons of what you just explained. But with parking and transportation, we've spent a lot of time on that. And actually there was a parking and transportation task force meeting this morning that both of you were at. One of the things that the task force spent a lot of time talking about was the implementation of the price parking that is going to occur in our downtown core. So perhaps both of you, Mayor, if you want to start, could talk a little bit about, there's a lot of steps to this, and there's a lot of things that we're working through.
You know, I just, the community has gotten to the point with the overwhelming amount of people that come to the town that it is time to swallow this bitter pill and move on with price parking. It is, I know that this is just, will not be met very favorably, but it is the management tool out of all the tools that our recent consultants have talked to us about, it's the tool that moves the needle more than anything else. To manage that parking on Main Ridge and in the core parking lots is, we're just at that point. It's important. We have to get shop owners and employees, out of the places that we want our guests to park, and this is the tool to do it. And if I'll let Elizabeth talk about the cool technology piece that goes with this, because that's the exciting part.
Well, and before we get into the technology, because the technology is going to be about making it user-friendly.
Right.
And that's important. But it's also important to say this is not about making money.
Right.
No.
It's not about revenue. This is about pricing, finding that right price point, and you want it to always be cheap enough that it's doing its job in creating turnover and availability. The more you always want availability so that when those guests are coming, there is a spot available, and that reduces the circling effect, and which adds to our congestion.
And we call it, you can call it price parking or paid parking, but really it's managed parking. That's what this is all about for Breckenridge. It's about managing those parking spots to the best utilization, and making it so we're not gouging anyone.
No, it's not a revenue generator for the town. I think we can't say that enough.
Yeah.
This is truly to manage that availability for the guest experience.
And we don't want to charge when we don't need to. And that's one of the reasons that the task force, they're looking at not even starting this till 10 a.m. and, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. because we know that during the prime part of our season and even in the summer, that our main streets are packed until 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
But we know they're not full at 10 a.m. or at 9:30, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We know we're trying to minimize the impact, certainly to the locals, as much as possible. And there isn't a meeting that goes by that we're not considering or thinking about that impact to our locals. And there will be some, but it's something that we're certainly not ignoring.
Yeah, and this isn't the final, the pricing that'll come out on December 1st won't be the final pricing. I doubt we're going to hit this nail on the head immediately. This will evolve. This will be an ever-changing, ever-growing program till we get it right.
Yeah. But, the one thing we are looking at starting at this, certainly as we kick it off, is I think very reasonable pricing, at least for those first couple hours. The maximum amount right now to start off that somebody might pay is 50 cents for the first hour, another 50 cents for the second hour. It's those people that then want to occupy that space for a considerable time, that third or fourth hour when you see that jump in there. So we're really not trying to impact the people too hard that are in there for an hour or two.
Right.
Yeah.
To go eat dinner and shop and whatnot.
Exactly. So Elizabeth, you're familiar. I think you were part of a group that were looking at an app, some software that will accompany.
Yeah,
this
we've
parking?
been spending a lot of time trying to get an app that makes sense for Breckenridge. So, and something we can really customize. So we're working on that. So we're going to have some kiosks installed throughout the downtown core. People will essentially pay for their parking by zone. So you'll be parked in a zoning number, and you can pay for that either at the kiosk or via your phone on an app that's very easy to use. You can be set up on the entire thing within 1 minute, and it allows you, if you decide you're out having dinner and you want to go somewhere else for a drink afterwards, you can extend the time just right there from your phone. It offers you reminders. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So working on that, we're going to be fine tuning it, taking comments as we open it up, but really spending a lot of time and thinking of different circumstances that could come up, while we're using the app. But I think it will be informative and very easy for people to use.
And, I would like to remind our viewers also that hopefully within the next 30 days, you're going to see opportunities where we're going to come out to you, whether it be at different functions or in the lobby of the recreation center. We want to reach out and touch as many of our locals and business people as possible and actually bring one of these machines with us. We want people to understand it, learn about it, and really, because it as one person said, this is not your grandma's pay parking anymore.
Right.
And I think, where you feed the meter or you have to have, everybody thinks you need to keep change in your car to do this. It's really a pretty simple system to use and very user friendly. So we want, hopefully that people will take advantage of those opportunities and really learn and understand what we're trying to do. So along with that, not only as we're looking at how we manage our traffic and congestion, we've talked a lot about how do we get people out of cars. And we know that there are certain areas of town that are within 2 blocks of Main Street, yet people drive. And I think the council was really enlightened this past summer when we looked at an overhead night shot of our downtown area, and we saw these really dark pockets within a half a block of Main Street, and we're asking our guests to kind of walk through those areas. And so we've really spent a lot of time, and we had a presentation at your last work session on kind of lighting options within the town. And so what are some areas that we're kind of focusing on with that right now, and where the public might see some noticeable improvements in the next 30 to 45 days?
Right, so we've installed 2 new lights on the south end of Airport Road, and those are new, brighter bulbs. They're about 3 times brighter than what was there. I think what's important for everyone to understand, all these bulbs are downcast, so we'll still be dark sky compliant. We're going to be installing those as well. Let's see, on the Riverwalk, is that in the Riverwalk
Coming
area?
down along through kind of F-lot
Yep,
area.
through F-lot area,
Path.
where that was a very, very dark area. So that will be considerable improvement. Park Avenue is going to have some of those. And
Village Road, there'll be 11 new ones along Village Road.
Yep.
There's a lot of pedestrians that walk down from Beaver Run.
And people already walk that, but just to encourage more people, maybe if it's their first time to Breckenridge, first time staying at Village Road, maybe it looks a little dark to them or they're not sure where they're going. I think if we light that up a little bit more, it will really encourage that pedestrian traffic. So those should come in. We're going to also install those on the north end of Airport Road, where we have a lot of additional traffic down there these days. And so we'll see some of those lights there.
South Gondola through Town Hall to
Yeah.
Main Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, hundreds of people that are parked there within a half a block, and we know many of those people get in their car and then circle around and look
Right.
for a space. And we, as much as we can let those people know it's easy, just walk right into town. So we want to make that inviting
Yeah,
for
and
them.
our Main Street lighting's going to stay the same,
Yep.
and that's important. We'll have that soft glow that Breckenridge is so known for, but these slight outside areas, that are really still in our downtown core, we just want to brighten those up a bit so people feel comfortable walking 1 block or 2.
And, they are all dark sky compliant,
Yeah.
and so that's important. While they downcast more light and a wider footprint, and they're more efficient to operate because they're
LED,
all
yes.
LED
Yep.
bulbs, so they're at a fraction of the cost of what we've been operating our other ones for, and much more effective, and provide a better environment. So, yeah, that's exciting, and hopefully you'll see a lot of those changes, and they are noticeable in those areas where they need them. But it's a process that takes time to do that. It's like 6 to 8 week turnaround when you order one of these bulbs. So we're not replacing the whole light. We're able to go into the head of the light and replace all the inner workings in there to make them compliant with this new setup. So that'll be good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of impacts we have this winter with that. So we got some good news. I recently saw a new transit report that just came out looking at the month of September and everything leading up, and you're going to see that in your packet next week. We talked briefly about those numbers today with the task force, but we've had a lot of changes with our transit system, and I think we're starting to see the impacts of that now when we don't even have a lot of people here.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a really important component. This is the piece that I really get excited about is you can't do a paid parking or managed parking in the core without providing an alternative way to get into town for the locals and for our guests too, honestly. So I'm sure you've seen the trolley. Trolley's going up and down Main Street again, like it did back in the old days, which is great, ringing the bell. And we're adding some service to Warriors Mark, additional brown route. We're adding a red route that is a employee 6 a.m. in the morning route that will get you from the employee lots out on the outskirts of town into town. And my favorite, the purple route which now goes clockwise. There'll be a second bus that goes counterclockwise, and you'll be able to get to the rec center from, arguably one of our largest bed bases in the area. So you can leave your car at home now. You can get on the bus, go into town, and then get on the other side and get back home and go to the rec center, go to the post office. We're just really beefing up service. It's exciting. It's hopefully people will buy into this and realize that leaving your car at home and taking free public transportation in town is really a great option for work, for shopping, for going down to have a couple of drinks. That's what you want. You don't want to get in your car and drive home. Now you can easily get to where you're going on our free ride.
Well, some of those, a lot of those changes that you described were in place, and there's even more to come in early or mid-September. So when we looked at our rider numbers, September of this year compared to September of last year, we had a 72% increase in ridership. That's 13,000 more people in just that month rode the bus this year than last year.
Right.
And probably almost 3,000 of that was attributable to the trolley.
Oh, I would say at least. I feel like during Labor Day weekend, the trolley was just nonstop, and I saw people pouring out of it. I'm glad that's been so popular.
And the yellow route will continue. That's the route that runs up Airport Road into the transit.
Right.
Again, our highest use
and one
route,
thing
and we had a third one of those when we had peak season.
And to know, instead of just additional stops, which is important, this is also more frequent service. The purple route used to be every half hour. Now it's going to be running about every 20 minutes. So we had one stop in Wellington neighborhood. Now there will be 3. There's the additional bus turnaround there. And throughout, I think the red route is 20 minutes as well, that new route, and the new service there. So it's going to be a lot more frequent. So people will not be able to say, oh, the bus takes too long, or I was waiting on the bus. They're going to see it way more often.
And our town staff will be working very close with the merchants along Main Street. They'll be working very close with our restaurant association and developing a flyer to help educate our employees about all of the options that are available with our transit system. Because if we're removing our employees off of Main Street and we're asking them to use transit, again, we knew that it had to be frequent and it had to be convenient. And I think we've come a long ways towards achieving that, but we need to make sure they understand it.
Right.
And where we're asking them to park and capture them at the edge of town, we've totally enhanced that whole area, and we're creating there's a shelter out there, there's lighting, there's a paved employee pickup area now at the north end of town in that satellite lot. So hopefully these things will all
I think all these little pieces will make a difference.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of things going on with what we're doing, and we're looking at Park Avenue. We actually have an engineering team looking at Park Avenue right now to study the feasibility of additional roundabouts there. Could you talk for a minute, Elizabeth, about what does that do for us, and why is that something important for the town to look at?
We really needed to look at roundabouts from a much higher viewpoint instead of each individual roundabout. We needed to look at this comprehensively, and so we have this new study going on now. What will make sense? How are we getting this many cars in? How many cars can we really handle? And so it's going to look pretty much from out Fairview now, Highlands area, to Boreas Pass Road, all the way to that area. So so what makes sense as far as having how many roundabouts there, and how we need to go forward with building these. 1 at a time, 2 at a time? Do we need to do 3 at once? Can you not do one without the other? So really just get our hands around this instead of looking at one roundabout at a time. And plus, these will not be highway roundabouts similar to what we have now. These will, the newer ones in town, what we're hearing is most likely we're going to need to build these smaller, you go at much slower speeds. It'll be, because we do hear a lot of complaints. Oh, the roundabouts are wild. So, yeah, these would be much more thoughtful.
Wild.
There are many
What would you call it?
I like wild.
Yeah.
Wild's good.
Actually, you want inside town. They look for what they call a little tighter roundabout,
Yes.
which does cause the car to slow. The secret to an effective roundabout is keeping a slower but consistent speed going. While many people think that they hurt traffic, the reality is by keeping a slower, consistent speed, it's the stop and go of traffic lights that
Right.
creates a domino effect and backs traffic up. And so that's why these engineers will model our traffic along Park Avenue, and then they have the ability to tell us if we added net parking in any location into that modeling, what does that do, and what's the impact it has. And so we're looking for that report to be around the end of December, and that's
Yeah.
an important next step for the council.
Yep, because I think we're hearing from people, and we're anxious to start building some of these, but we want to do it in the right way. So I know we're all anxious to see that report.
Yeah. Well, I can't sit here and talk about parking and transportation without at least addressing kind of the elephant in the room. And I'm sure our viewers that are watching this have received communication in their mailboxes, or we know there's been surveys done. And this is communication with Vail Resorts, and they certainly have expressed some kind of harsh remarks towards the council. And Mayor specifically, we know that there's people that say, why isn't the town fighting back? Why isn't the town engaging in this communication? But I think you have some strong thoughts about this.
I do. I don't think this is the kind of discussion that we're going to fight out in a newspaper. We have plenty of discussions at the council level. We've had plenty of discussions one-on-one with representatives from Vail Resorts. They have a different opinion, a different take on what we think the facts are, and in the end, we could get in the mud and duke it out with these guys and debate all we want, but really the truth is the council is seeking a global solution to this problem. This is not a problem that dropping 700 parking spaces on F-lot is going to solve for anybody. We're taking a number of steps, and these steps are going to fix this problem into the future. We can't just, I think it's a fantasy to say that just adding net new parking in the middle of town is going to fix your parking problem. Because we have a parking problem, a transit problem, a people moving problem, a car moving problem, and all these things are integrated. So we're looking for a broader solution that will take longer and probably cost more money, but in the end, it will be the right solution for the town. It's the right solution for our guests. It's the right solution for the people that live here. And that, I think, what the people that elected us, that's what they want. They don't want a Band-Aid. They want a permanent fix to this crisis. And I think we're on the right path. I really do. I truly believe that the steps we're taking and some of the stuff we've talked about here today is really the solution. And eventually we'll get to a parking structure somewhere in the community. We're still working on this. But to just say that we're going to just plop down a structure and all done is, I don't think that's the answer. And I'm not willing to slug it out in the newspaper over who said what when and why we're not doing what we supposedly promised. So,
well, I can tell you, Elizabeth and I were there last summer, and we were out within the community and possibly spoke to some of you watching, and we did talk, and we had pictures and drawings of a structure because we had some feasibility and a fit test done to say, could we fit a structure? But we also, in that same breath, we told people that if we were successful in getting a revenue stream, that we were going to hire the best people that we could find to make sure that we were not making the problem worse. And we did that.
We did.
And I would like to think that we've become smarter and that we've learned more and that we can't make decisions that will have a negative impact on a problem that we're trying to address.
Right.
And you know, I hope that our community wants us to get smarter and learn about this as we go and not making rash decisions. So, you know, it's tough sometimes, but you know, we're still a partner with the ski area, and I can tell you as of a few days ago, we sat down and we worked with them because we look at our winter operational plan, and it's important for us to work together, and we're able to do that on a daily basis. So while it may look to our viewers like we're fighting a little bit, and we are having disagreements, we're still working very close together for the success of this community. Because we have to as we come into our busy winter seasons.
Parking and transit is a one piece of all of the things we do. I mean,
Right.
we have multiple things we worry about: water, housing. You know, I mean, there's so many little pieces to what makes this town tick that to just, you know, get myopic and focus just on this parking and transit thing and think that that's all we do is, it's sort of a shame that that's where we are right now, because we do have a lot of other things that we discuss that are really important. I mean, water is probably more important than anything we ever talk about, and you never really hear about it. So
Yeah, and I'm sure that we'll continue to talk about all this for a while because, you know, we're not ready to make final decisions yet.
No, we're not.
Yeah. But some good things that are happening, and you know, the Summit County Combined Housing Authority actually came along with FERC and gave a little presentation to the council this past month on a new program that they're initiating. And Elizabeth, can you
Sure.
talk for a minute about
Yep,
that?
so this is called the Housing Works Initiative, and the Summit Foundation provided a grant to the Housing Authority and FERC to initially kickstart this of $50,000. And what it's doing is it's essentially matching up landlords with tenants. And so they're taking units that were short-term rentals in the past and matching them up to be a long-term rental for our workforce. And so there's a lot of tests or requirements that the renters have to go through, and the landlords, I think that helps them feel assured that they're going to have good people in there taking care of their property. And it's really been successful. In fact, this week they're moving their 10th family into a new unit. So just really in a short amount of time, about 2 months, we've seen 10 new workforce housing rentals in the county that were all short-term rentals last year. So that's great. So their goal is to get 30 units, I would say, over the next year or two online, which would really, I mean, that's wonderful, you know, and the cost to this is very, very minimal.
Certainly much less expensive than building. You know.
Correct, you know, and so a lot of times maybe it's helping those families cover, you know, first, last deposit, part of that to get them in there, or, you know, a subsidy, whatever it might be, very small, but just to make up that difference from maybe what they were doing on the short-term market with a lot less impact, you know, not having to constantly deal with the rental aspect of, you know, party people renting out your place all the time or whatnot, and knowing that our workforce is having additional places to live. So we're supportive of this program and look forward to them coming back to us and maybe how we could partner as a town with them in the future.
Well, I continue to be extremely proud of our town staff and the hard work that they do on our housing projects. And the town of Breckenridge has always been extremely committed to this, and it just, you know, people are seeing it being built now right in front of their eyes. If you drive up County Road 450 up above 7-Eleven, you can see it coming out of the ground right now, and that's our new 26 unit project with the county that is right on track to open this next spring, early summer. And also the one over by Colorado Mountain College, again, another 30 units.
Yeah.
So that one's moving along at a fast pace.
yeah, that
really
thing's
is.
going up quick.
Yeah. And right in front of that, or just to the south of that, we've already got the road infrastructure going in and the utilities, and that's our plans for another 66 unit project that may be a combination yet. It could be all rental. It could be a combination of some for sale or some for rental, and we're set to break ground on that next summer. So,
Really exciting.
yeah, great. The one last thing I just wanted to touch upon was staff has been working with some of our partner organizations, specifically the Breckenridge Tourism Office, who staffs our Welcome Center. And we have a very popular Welcome Center that, 10, 12 years ago, we did a total remodel, and it's kind of time to take a new look at that and evaluate the uses. And so, what's going on with that? You look to Elizabeth?
I mean, we're just seeing a lot of traffic in there,
Yeah.
a lot more people, and we just want that Welcome Center to be utilized in the best way. So whether people are buying tickets for Riverwalk Center events in there, or a heritage tour, finding out information about what restaurant they should go eat at, the bus route, etc. We just want that to be a very user-friendly space, and make sure, because that's a lot of square footage in the middle of Main Street, and what is really the best use of that. We do have some historic exhibits in there that are really interesting, but I think they're tired. Our guests need to see something new. We need to update those, and we have a lot to talk about in Breckenridge and our history, and that is probably one of our shining stars of what makes Breckenridge different. We really need to highlight that in the best way, and just make that square footage the most efficient and effective that it can be.
That's a good way to put it. It's efficient. Right now, it's a funky space. There's the Welcome Centers in the front, there's a museum in the middle, and then there's a Welcome Center in the back, which is part museum in the back. So how do you get people to flow through there correctly? How do you engage people to come in, and you want to have a one-stop shop for ticketing. You want to give them all the information they need to get their way around town and find out where they want to eat or shop. And you also want to engage them with a little of that history and show them what we're all about. And it's nice not to only have the history from the 1800s, but the history, the more current history. Some of the Looney Tunes that have really made us what we are. You'd like to have part of that in there. So we have some real discussions on how to make this thing work better than it currently does. And there are a lot of opinions on the council, so we'll get somewhere.
Yeah, and this is something that we're in the middle of this right now. And so this is something the council is going to look at. This is a project that could happen in 2017 or could be pushed out another year. And these are part of what the council will be discussing is in about 3 weeks, when the council has their budget retreat, where they really start making a lot of their 2017 funding decisions. So.
True. And one funding decision I think that we'll officially make, but we're kind of on track already, is with the rec center. So we just want to warn everyone, next summer we'll really be getting our hands dirty with expanding that. But that's going to be a great project. I know this council's really committed, and the rec center is really something that everyone in our community can use. If you need to go there for physical therapy, if your kids are going there, if you are a retired person, you go there a lot. It's really a great place, but it was time to update it. So,
and if you're interested in seeing what we're doing, we're going to do our coffee talk for November at the rec center, and do a walk around, and at the same time we're going to have one of the parking.
Yeah, we're going to have you ride the bus.
We're going to have you ride the bus to the rec center, and then look at the parking meter, and then have a look at what we're going to do in the rec center. So it'll be really cool. That'll be a great coffee talk, and then we have our normal October coffee talk will be at Cabin Coffee.
But good job with the coffee talks, changing them up.
Thanks.
We should remind people, starting in August, we, I think, did our first maybe different one where we met out at the golf course for a happy hour type. And then Eric took people on a mountain bike ride.
Had a couple mountain bike rides.
Yep.
Fun.
Yeah. And then Wendy did a hike, I think, with Rick.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
So we've been changing it up a bit. I love the idea of having it at the rec center. But, we just want to reach, I think, all facets of our community. And these different coffee talks is a way to do it.
Yeah, so if you have questions or just want to, have a chat, see what we're doing at the rec center, November is going to be a great one because it'll be a little longer. We'll go over a bunch of stuff. And in October, if anything's, there's something you want to discuss, show up, and it'll be in the paper. So come and give us a piece of your mind.
Well, I want to thank both of you for taking the time to be here today and talk to our guests. And I want to thank you for tuning in staying engaged and informed in your community and what's going on in Breckenridge. So we'll look forward to seeing you next month, and thank you.